Have you ever thought about how much control you have over your data when it comes to AI?
Yeah, it's a big question these days.
Imagine if you could use your data to train these amazing AI models, but it never actually left your device.
It's interesting, right?
Is that even possible?
Well, that's the kind of future that decentralized deep learning is pointing towards.
Okay, so what is that?
It's a pretty radical idea, really, if you think about it. It blends the power of deep learning AI with, with the whole distributed nature of decentralized systems, which we've talked about before.
Right.
It kind of flips things on its head.
So we're talking about what? Taking the AI that usually lives on some big tech company servers and spreading it out somehow? How's that
Exactly.
even possible?
Yeah. So that's the decentralized part, right?
Yeah.
But how does that work in practice? Okay, well, think about it like this.
Okay.
Imagine instead of handing over, let's say, all of your health data over to a single company so they can develop new AI diagnostics,
Yeah.
your phone or your computer, it could actually be part of that training process directly.
Hold on, my phone could train an AI. I'm picturing my phone sweating over flashcards or something right now.
Not quite, but it gives you an idea of how this could shift the whole landscape of AI development.
Okay.
In that kind of scenario, your data never actually leaves your device. Instead, your device would download a preliminary version of the AI model. It would use your local data to improve it, and then it'd send those improvements back to a central hub.
So instead of one giant data warehouse,
Mhm.
it's more like a collaborative effort between a ton of devices.
That's a great way to put it, yeah. It's collaborative. And because your data is not going anywhere, it stays put, you get that added layer of privacy. And that's one of the big, I think, the big promises of DDL, especially, when you're talking about sensitive stuff like health records or financial data.
That makes sense. But isn't deep learning all about having these massive data sets?
It is, yeah.
Wouldn't splitting things up make the AI less powerful?
That's the interesting trade-off here. Because while DDL, at first glance, it might seem counterintuitive,
Right.
it could actually unlock possibilities that just aren't possible right now. Think about the sheer volume of data that's generated globally every minute.
It's
There's
massive.
no way a single entity could ever capture all of that.
Right.
But with DDL, now you could potentially tap into this vast, distributed network of not just data, but also processing power.
So instead of being limited by what Google or Amazon can process, we're talking about a global AI brain
Yeah.
fueled by, well, everyone.
You got it. That's the idea.
Wow.
It could be huge, especially for things like, scientific research, where you have researchers all over the world. They're all generating data.
Right.
This could let them collaborate on a way bigger scale without compromising the privacy of their own, individual data sets.
Yeah, that's really cool. This is already making my head spin a little bit with the possibilities.
Yeah, it's pretty wild stuff.
But from the research you sent me that it's not all, sunshine and roses with this, right?
Oh, of course not. There are always challenges.
There are challenges, yeah.
Lots of them.
What what could go wrong?
Yeah.
So DDL, it has massive potential, but also some big question marks.
Yeah, for sure.
So how do we even begin to figure out if it's the right approach for a specific project?
Right. It's tough.
It feels like trying to pick, I don't know, a winning horse in a race where they haven't even been born yet.
That's a great way to put it. And actually, the paper gives us some questions to consider, kind of checking if a horse has good breeding, like a strong track record.
Okay, I like that. So what's the first hurdle these DDL horses got to clear?
First and foremost, does your project even need decentralization? Is it essential to make it work? Sometimes the answer is baked right into the project itself.
So something like, I don't know, building a new type of blockchain network is inherently decentralized.
Right.
There's no other way to do it.
Exactly. But if your goal is, say, I don't know, improving the accuracy of a facial recognition algorithm,
Right.
well, decentralization might not be the best or even a practical solution there.
Right. It's about picking the right tool for the job. Don't use a sledgehammer to crack a nut. Right.
Right.
Exactly. Okay. What's the next question on our little checklist?
This one gets at the core of why we even care about decentralization in the first place. So are there multiple stakeholders in your project, especially if they have, different levels of trust or even competing interests?
Okay, yeah, I see where you're going with this.
Hmm.
If it's just one company working on something, they probably don't need the whole DDL thing, right?
Right.
But if you've got, rival tech companies or, I don't know, researchers from different countries, and they want to collaborate,
Now you're talking. That's when this shared, decentralized system becomes super valuable. And it's not even just about efficiency at that point. It's about like building trust, making sure that no single entity has control over like the data or even the results, right? Like in the paper, they use the example of researchers at different universities, and they all want to work together on a project, but it uses like sensitive patient data.
Right, right. Big ethical concerns there.
Exactly. So DDL would let them actually work together, collaborate without anyone having to compromise like their data security.
Right, because it's not like you can just chuck all that sensitive data onto like a shared Google Drive and call it a day.
Nope, not at all.
So we've got the need for it. We've got the collaboration aspect.
Mm.
What's the third question we should be thinking about?
This one might throw you for a loop.
Hmm.
Are the data or algorithms you're using, are they already decentralized in some way?
Interesting.
Because if they are, integrating DDL is almost like a no-brainer. It's a natural next step.
So like if you're already working with, I don't know, a decentralized network of like those Internet of Things devices,
Yeah.
adding in DDL is less of a leap because you're building on that existing foundation.
Exactly. You've already got the ingredients kind of spread out, so baking that decentralized cake, so to speak, makes total sense.
Right, right.
But trying to force a centralized system into a decentralized structure, oof, that's a much tougher recipe to follow.
That makes sense. So final question for our DDL deep dive here.
All right, shoot.
What's the last thing we got to ask ourselves about our potential project?
This one's all about the long game. Okay, so is decentralization beneficial for at least one stage of your project? Even if it's not needed for like the whole thing.
Yeah, okay.
That stage could be like the development phase or the deployment stage or even when you decommission the whole thing down the line.
So even if DDL isn't like essential for the whole project, it might be the secret sauce for a specific part of it.
You got it.
So for example, maybe you need DDL for the data gathering part. Right?
Yeah.
To keep everything secure. But once you've got your final AI model, it could be on like a normal centralized platform.
Exactly. It's not about being like ideologically married to this idea of decentralization. It's about being strategic, right?
Yeah.
Choosing when and where it makes the most sense.
I love that. These questions have been super helpful for like breaking this whole thing down.
It's complicated stuff.
It really is. But I do want to see how this actually plays out in the real world,
Oh, yeah.
What are some real examples of DDL in action?
Or remember that whole metaverse thing from the paper?
Oh, yeah, that was pretty wild.
That's one area where this could be huge, like completely change how we think about it. Imagine virtual worlds where, the environments are shaped by AI, but instead of it being controlled by a single company.
Instead of, like Meta or whoever just calling all the shots.
Right.
It's the users. It's all of us shaping that virtual landscape with our data, our choices.
Yeah.
That's like mind-blowing.
Yeah, it's huge. It's like we all get handed the paintbrushes and we can all contribute to this, this masterpiece.
I love that.
And because it's decentralized, there's no like single point of failure. One company can't just decide to shut the whole thing down on a whim.
Right. It's like the Wild West, but, virtual reality style. Hopefully a little less tumbleweeds, though.
Hopefully.
And it's not even just about games, right?
Ow.
The paper talked about some really interesting stuff for healthcare.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Which feels super relevant these days.
For sure. Imagine like a global network of hospitals, right? And research institutions, all of them contributing to this giant decentralized AI model for medical diagnoses.
Wow.
So with DDL, they can pool their data, train this crazy, powerful AI, but nobody's compromising patient privacy.
It's like the best of both worlds, right?
Exactly. You get all the benefits of big data,
Right.
but you don't have to sacrifice security and control like you usually would with these centralized systems.
It's like, I don't know, having your cake and eating it too, but the cake is like this awesome medical AI and everybody gets a slice.
I like that. That's a great analogy.
Okay, so we've talked about a lot today. Data, algorithms, decentralization. It's a lot. What was like your main takeaway from all this? What really stuck with you?
I think for me, honestly, it's just that potential for like really democratizing AI. It's not just about efficiency or even scalability. It's about making it accessible, to like way more people, way more organizations. Imagine if amazing AI wasn't just something like individual people were creating.
Like the early days of the internet, right?
Yeah,
Back then, nobody knew what to expect.
exactly.
And look at what we can do now.
Right.
So with DDL, who knows what incredible stuff people will come up with.
It's going to be amazing. I can't wait to see.
Me too. Well, on that note, that feels like a good place to wrap things up. For more deep dives into the latest tech, make sure you're following us, and we will catch you in the next one.